and thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast. My name is Jill Allcoat and I am the Member Engagement Team Manager at the Chartered Institute of Housing. Today we're hosting this podcast, which is specifically on mentoring and is intentionally taking part during National Mentoring Month. And CIH has been really active in terms of some of the really great activities that we've been doing during the month. And I'm absolutely delighted to be part of this particular podcast. So we hope that you enjoy it going forward. So today I'm delighted to be joined by two very active CIH members. I will introduce you to both of them. First of all, we're joined by Nigel Finney. Nigel is a non-executive director on two housing association boards. The first one is Watmos. The second one is Grŵp Cynefin, which is based in Wales. Nigel also is part of the governing board at the Chartered Institute of Housing, and he is also the current chair of the Professional Standards Committee, which is a role that he has held for a couple of years. Nigel has also been a mentor with the CIH mentoring programme for about 2 years, and during that time he's mentored 7 CIH members. The second guest that we have with us today is Clare Tostevin. Clare is a non-executive director at Connect Housing and also is a consultant within the housing sector. Clare took up the opportunity to access the CIH mentoring programme in a way to get more engaged with CIH overall, and also to look at ways to develop in that mentoring and mentor relationship. What we'll do today is, as part of the process, I'm going to be asking both Nigel and Clare a number of questions, and we might go off on different tangents, and I'm really excited about the discussion that we're about to have. And what we're hoping that you will be able to gain from this is a number of tips, a number of lessons and some key takeaways. So we hope you enjoy our podcast. So we'll make a start. So welcome to you both. Nigel, can I just come to you first of all? We'll pose a number of questions, but the first question that I would like to sort of understand from you, with you being a really active mentor within CIH, could you talk a bit about what mentoring is and potentially give us a bit of a quick introduction to the CIH platform that we use for mentoring, the Pushfar platform?
Yeah, of course, Jill, and thank you for inviting me onto this podcast. I'm really delighted to be here. Having been a mentor, this is really the first time I've done that for the last couple of years, and through the CIH, I've really enjoyed it. And I'm passionate about it. So it's great to be part of a program now to try and get more people involved in that. So I think mentoring's lots of things to lots of people, but I suppose if I had to kind of boil it down to its essence, it's about sharing knowledge and skills to help another person, develop their knowledge and skills, both professionally and perhaps personally as well, or both at the same time effectively. So I think that's the basics of it, but there are lots, different people want different things from mentoring. Perhaps we'll touch on that a little bit later when we get into a bit more of the detail. In terms of the CIH, the platform, they're called the Pushfar platform, which is on the CIH website, to be able to manage that process for you. It really takes all the strain out of it. Makes it really easy because you can advertise that you want to be mentored or want to be a mentor. You can post your profile on there, and then you can link with people, check out whether it's somebody you want to have that mentoring relationship with, and you can book meetings, set goals, you can do all sorts of things via the Pushfar website. And it really allows you to track how things are going. So it couldn't really be easier, to be honest with you. And it's really great that the CIH want to do that. And also I think we want to get feedback, don't we, from people who use it, because I know CIH wants to improve. It's good now, but I think we want to add things to the website as we go forward.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Thank you, Nigel. So Claire, can I just pick up on some of to extend upon some of the comments that Nigel's just made? So it was really helpful to sort of get that understanding about what mentoring means and sort of how accessible it is for anybody who's interested in getting involved in a mentoring relationship. Could you talk us a little bit through your experience then, Claire, in terms of becoming a member of CIH and then reaching out to, get a mentor, and obviously you then linked up with Nigel, but will you explain that in a little bit more detail, and even if there's sort of some daunting parts, to talk us through those?
Yeah, definitely. Mentoring something I'd done in the past and really enjoyed as a mentor in other settings, other professional settings. And it was a little bit of a light bulb moment, I suppose, because I was looking at CIH and how I could become more involved, and thinking about actually being a mentee and having a mentor is something that'd be really valuable for myself. And it was a little bit of why didn't I do this a long time ago? I've had quite a long career in housing, and I've done coaching and mentoring, in a team setting, but not as an individual before. So all those things that Nigel was sort of talking about in terms of sharing that knowledge and experience and understanding somebody else's expertise, really helpful as a mentee. And I'd say to people at whatever point in your career you're at, it's so helpful to have somebody that's actually not directly linked to your day-to-day, that's not part of your organisation or not looking at you as a team. They're just having that conversation around these are some of the sticky things that I'm dealing with, and having that different perspective. So I think that's really helpful. In terms of push bar, I suppose I was really lucky as a mentee because I had a look through, I had a look at, some people that I thought might be able to sort of help me, particularly with getting more involved in CIH. And also that sort of Watmos background, because I've got a particular interest in, sort of tenant engagement, involvement, community kind of based organisations. Nigel sort of, his profile kind of struck a number of chords with me, and I was lucky because I reached out to Nigel and he was the first person on there that I reached out to, and we had a conversation and he said, yeah, go on then. So that was like super good. There's a lot of people on there, so I'm mindful, that might not always be the case, that people don't necessarily gel, might need a couple of goes. And when I've used Push4 to reach out for a couple of people, to say potentially, would you like me to mentor you? That hasn't sort of been the experience. I think, because there's a lot of people on there, potentially, people's jobs change, people's situation changes. So there's a little bit of keeping active on the platform, but I was really lucky that sort of Nigel was the first person that I spoke to.
Brilliant, thank you, Claire. So just picking up on some of the points that you've made there. So you've talked about the benefits that you were able to ascertain through connecting with Nigel as your mentor. Do you feel then that sort of in terms of those benefits, it's not just the benefits that you've been able to achieve and benefit from, but then wider benefits to others that you work with and sort of teams that you're involved in and sort of organisations? Is there anything that you wanted to sort of talk about in that sort of respect?
I think it is, isn't it? It's like that setting of what mentoring does is it sets aside that time for reflection. It brings somebody else into the conversation that can then help you think about things a little bit differently. So some of those things, yes, of course, they're then that wider benefit to be able to, be thinking a bit differently, sharing different perspectives, etc. And just I think having somebody that you can talk through something confidentially, and they can give their challenge, their perspective, And the other bit is setting some objectives as well. So it's like holding yourself accountable for the things that you've told your mentor that you're going to do before the next meeting.
Brilliant, lovely. Thank you, Claire. Nigel, could I just go back to you on this next point, and it's related to sort of what we've just been talking about in terms of the benefits to the mentor and the wider sort of context. Could you talk a bit more about you've had the experience of mentoring for a number of years now, and obviously been able to mentor members in different roles and different organisations and different locations. Could you talk a bit about the benefits that you've been able to gain from being a mentor?
Yeah, I'm very happy to do that, Jill. But before I do, I've been remiss, actually. When you asked me to give a description of the mentoring and how it is through the platform, a key thing I forgot to mention, of course, is that there are not many things in life that are free, but this mentoring is. So I would urge members to take that up, because actually, if you try to access mentoring in another setting, it could be quite expensive, as it were. So this is a really good opportunity. And the other thing I think is, no matter what stage of your career you're in, mentoring can be really, really helpful. If I take my own experience, I've mentored people who are just starting out in their career. I've mentored people who are kind of in middle management positions who want to look for promotion and looking for tips on that. And then I've mentored people like Claire who are in senior positions, and it's a different kind of discussion as well. So there's lots of different, all sorts of people can benefit from it. But your question to me was about what the benefits as a mentor. So one is for your own personal growth, because I have found that in the discussions I've had with my mentees, that's allowed me to think about my own experience and reflected on that, and allowed me to kind of put it in context and understand for myself, oh, well, I might have done that differently in this situation or whatever. So it does allow me to continue to grow and develop. And I've certainly, I hope Claire doesn't mind me saying this, but, Claire, I think when you're mentoring someone at a more senior level, it becomes a little bit more of a chat, and, we're discussing things, and, it helps me learn and develop as well. So there's the personal growth side. There is the kind of, for want of a better term, the legacy building side. I'm absolutely, as all of us are who are in this sector, passionate about what we do and social housing and the mission of the Charter Institute of Housing in particular. So I feel by being a mentor, I'm able to hopefully to contribute to the strengthening and developing of that, particularly of new people entering the sector. If I can help them on their way even a little bit, it's contributing in some way. Also, I think it does provide networking opportunities for me, because I have remained in where we've ended a mentoring relationship because we've achieved the goals or whatever. I have kept in contact with those people, and it's led to further discussions and so on. So that's been really helpful. And then there's the cliche one, I'm, I suppose, towards the end of my career potentially, and I felt that I wanted to give something back. The sector's been good to me. The Charter Institute of Housing, I really value my membership for the last, goodness me, 35 years, and I felt, I want to give something back. So that was important. I think it has enhanced my leadership skills as well, because those discussions we have helped me think a little bit more about things. I've in preparing for mentoring meetings, I've looked, read up about certain things or whatever, and looked at things afterwards as well. So that's helped me build my skills. One that's very pertinent to me is, as a board member, it is sometimes easy to perhaps lose touch a little bit with what's happening in the sector a little bit. So by having mentoring relationships, and particularly with more junior members of staff, it helps me kind of keep in touch with the front line a little bit. So it's kind of, it helps me keep informed, and one of the ways I keep informed. Then the final thing, and I would say this, wouldn't I, as chair of the Professional Standards Committee, is, I am keen to promote the professional standards, and I often use the professional standards and the self-assessment, which again is a free tool on the CIH website where you can test yourself against the professional standards. I often use that as a way of starting out a mentoring relationship, because we see where the person sits on that evaluation and perhaps use that to develop areas of expertise and knowledge. So, I guess I would be selling that very strongly, but I think for me it's particularly important. So there's kind of 7 that I've reeled off there. I'm sure for different mentors it might be some things are more important than others, but I would say that covers quite a raft of things actually. So it's been enormously beneficial.
Brilliant, thank you, Nigel. That was really helpful, and great that you sort of had a set number of points that you wanted to go through, which just shows the extent of the benefits of becoming a mentor in lots of different areas. So thank you for going into that in that detail. And also for kindly making the link to the professional standards, and like you've identified, mentoring is a great way for all of us as housing professionals to be able to support other peers and colleagues, other members within the profession, to help them to grow and to sort of help them to set objectives and to achieve those. And it's very reflective of the sector that we work in terms of how we are as a sector very supportive of the professional development of other members and other housing professionals within the sector. So thank you for that, Nigel. Claire, I just wanted to sort of start to touch upon, I suppose, the experiences then in terms of the sort of what does a programme look like in terms of when you start that mentoring relationship. Could you start to sort of just outline some of that to just give us a bit more of a sort of tangible view about what that looks like in the meetings and so on?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think maybe just to pick up where Nigel sort of finished describing, actually, one of the first things we did as part of our conversations was look at the professional standards and do that self-assessment. And that then helps inform areas to concentrate on and think about further during that mentoring relationship. So I had a specific kind of ask around understanding more about the CIH and using professional standards, understanding the code of conduct and thinking about those, and how I could be a better advocate and champion CIH as well, and kind of get more involved, which was something I sort of felt that I had the opportunity to do, and perhaps I hadn't done as much as I should have in the past or could have in the past. So it was particularly looking around that. And then in terms of structure, it's setting meetings, agreeing how often you want to meet, how often we want to meet. We've done our sessions all virtually, and that's worked absolutely fine. So just thinking about some of those practical things, and we've had conversations probably about every 6 weeks, but also there's been a couple of times when there's been things where I've contacted Nigel outside of those conversations and said, I just really welcome your feedback. Could you just, could we have a quick email chat or chat about, these couple of particular things? And I think just having somebody else there that knows you a bit, and you can kind of sense check something against is really helpful as well. So I think that mentoring relationship, it's really important to, have some boundaries around it, I would say, and make sure that, stick to agreed meetings and those kind of things, carry on meeting regularly. But I would say we've had some flexibility around that as well, haven't we, Nigel? And that's worked well for both of us to be able to kind of have those formal meetings and then some sort of, flexibility and informality around that as well. I think it's probably really that first conversation and meeting is really important to make sure that it's somebody that you feel confident is going to be able to support you in that mentoring relationship, and for the mentor as well to be clear that understand the person's goals and how you be able to support them, and just a little bit of making sure that you gel as well. And one of the really nice things has been, just it's that widening connection, isn't it? It's getting to know somebody and make that connection with somebody sort of outside of your normal networks and workplace as well has been really good.
Brilliant.
Jill,
Thank you. Yes, please do,
yeah,
Nigel.
Amplify a point. Yeah, I mean, I think Claire's covered that really well. I mean, I would say this, wouldn't I, because in the same meeting as us, isn't she? But she's a brilliant mentee because she really prepares for each of the sessions and does her homework as well. I know that sounds rather formal, but so for me, it isn't. Although it's an informal mentoring program, as it were, it is important, I think, to have some structure. So Claire is absolutely spot on there. I think having a clear sense of what the mentee wishes to achieve throughout that program is really important. And then to agree, how we're going to meet, how often are we going to meet, what's the best day for everyone, not setting dates, months in advance, but each time, and also approaching each meeting with an agenda so that we're clear what we're going to cover, and at the end of each meeting definitely setting the next date and what we're going to do in between times, as it were, if there is anything. I think having that in place really means that both the mentor and the mentee feel there's progress. And although I say that myself and Claire have a chat, as it were, it is very structured. And so on. And the other thing, I think Claire also hit the nail on the head. The platform allows you to put what your interests are and what you're seeking. And I'll give you some practical examples. I had someone reach out to me to be a mentor, and after having a chat with them, that initial chat, I felt I couldn't help them. I didn't have the experience or expertise in their particular area. So we decided not to go ahead simply because I wouldn't probably be able to add value. So, I think that's valuable too, because you wouldn't want to start something and find halfway through it's not quite working. And Claire's also right. Not that you have to completely gel with the person, but it's good to have someone you feel a connection with and so on, that you can work together. Because the other thing, as certainly in the mentoring I've done, I've occasionally offered challenge to some of my mentees, because I think that's potentially what they want, because actually they're reaching out to say, how can I do this differently and whatever. And sometimes you do have to be able to say, well, actually try this, and see how that works. And I think, that you need to have a very professional relationship, the one where you can actually challenge each other in a good way and, to develop new skills and so on. So it is really important to have a structure. And maybe that's just how I think, but I do think it does help. So you've got expectations, and of course you need to test whether the goals have been met. And it may be that once they've been met, it's time then to end that relationship, and potentially the mentee find a different mentor who can look at other aspects as well. It doesn't have to be forever. It could be as little as 6 months. It could be as much as a year, or whatever it might be.
Brilliant. No, thank you for expanding on that, Nigel. And so many takeaways there. One of the things to just go back and again, sort of points that you made earlier about recognising, having that honest discussion with between both the mentor and the mentee about what you would be able to do. And that's about having that honest conversation, isn't it? And again, sort of fits in with the professional standards in the context of us knowing our own limitations, and then sort of being honest in terms of, actually, I feel you would be better placed if you were to sort of seek another mentor. And it's about those honest, trustworthy conversations, isn't it, to sort of help to move on to what that next stage might be, and that professional challenge, as sort of that you've highlighted. So thank you. No, that was really helpful. Claire, not meaning to sort of put you in a position, but is there anything sort of further that you wanted to add on the basis of what Nigel's just sort of talked about there?
No, completely agree with what Nigel said. And I would say, it's a really positive experience, but sometimes those conversations are challenging and sometimes the actions are challenging. Come away thinking, oh, I need to do this thing I've told Nigel I'm going to do, and I need to, tell him in a couple of weeks that I've done it. So yeah, it's not always easy and it's not always comfortable, but I think that challenge is what helps us keep learning, isn't it, and keep stretching ourselves, and that's really important, and there's a value in that for all of us.
Brilliant. So thank you for that, both of you. The next sort of couple of questions really are about sort of those final sort of call to action really. So you've both been involved in the mentoring program for a length of time now. We've talked a bit about the Pushfar platform in terms of it's about setting up your profile. Some of the pitfalls that I'm aware of in particular are about making sure that you make sure your profile is complete as possible to try to give you the most appropriate matches to potential mentors. Is there anything else that you would want to sort of add about that sort of process with regards to sort of how a member would find a mentor and then sort of setting up those meetings? Nigel, would you like to make a start on that one?
Yeah, happy to, Jill. Thank you. Yeah, I think, before going anywhere near the platform, the key thing to do, if as a mentee, I think, well, actually, and as a potential mentor, is what do you want to achieve from the mentoring process? So before you put a pen to paper, as it were, on the profile, is distill in your own mind where you're at and what are the issues or barriers or skills or whatever it is you feel you want to develop. And then there's two things to do then. One is to provide a short, accurate statement about where you are, what your role is, kind of things you do. And then the second part in the profile, I think, is what is it you're looking for? What are your goals? Perhaps 1, 2, 3 bullet points maximum, but be as specific as you can. If putting it crudely, if someone puts "I want to be promoted" or something, well, okay, but I think you need to be more specific. What is it that's stopping you, or what area do you think you need to develop in? And the reason I say that is because then mentors can actually see who might then be the person that they have a good fit with, or, oh yeah, I can definitely help with that. So that's the starting point. And then in terms of finding someone, then yes, go onto the platform once you put your details on there, and you can actually, because one part of the platform does actually match you up. There's people with similar skills and interests, but also you can then go and look through the people that are on the site then to find a match. Now that I think is an area where hopefully the website will improve over time, I think, because it's you do literally have to trawl through lots of different people. But I think if you're serious about it as a mentor or mentee, then yeah, you need to just invest a bit of time doing that. And I'll give you some examples. When I first started, I reached, nobody got in touch with me initially, and I thought, oh goodness me, what have I done wrong? So I actually reached out to various people, and some people immediately said, oh yeah, I missed you or whatever, and we started the mentoring relationship. One other, as I said to you, we felt it was not the right thing, the right fit between us and so on. So there's a mixture. You need to be proactive to some extent. You can't just wait necessarily for people to find you. And as do what Claire did. She looked through, found someone who she felt could match and reached out. So and you're not committed to anything. You go on there, and have a discussion. That's the other important thing. I think Claire mentioned that initial discussion is absolutely crucial, because then you can clarify the goals, see whether there's a good fit, and then you set the ground rules, as it were, and then you can move on from there.
Brilliant, lovely. Thank you, Nigel. So I think we've come to the end of our discussion today. So thank you, everybody. So hopefully that's given you a really good insight into the advantages of mentoring, the CIH mentoring programme, the push for our platform, lots of takeaways hopefully in terms of sort of some pitfalls to sort of avoid, and some really good lessons learned, and some great sharing there. There's lots of communication that comes out from CIH about all of our membership benefits, and we've referred obviously to the mentoring programme today and also to the professional standards. But you will also find lots of information about the wide range of CIH benefits, which are designed to help our members in terms of developing knowledge and learning, sharing experiences, and those benefits are provided in lots of different ways. So lots of information on the website, and also the opportunity to sign up on the website as either a mentor or a mentee. I also know, I think it was mentioned earlier, I do know that many of our mentors and mentees are more than happy to speak to any of our members who are considering it, but just haven't quite made the leap to either become a mentor or a mentee. So I do know that you are, interested, and I can see Claire and Nigel's heads were both nodding, so in agreement with that. So thank you for your support with that. So if you are interested, please do just reach out, and we can help to connect you to existing mentors and mentees. Thank you for listening today.